Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be filming books to get you into reading. I think it's becoming a lot more popular recently to read and a lot of people wanting to get into reading. If you don't know where to start, these books I think would be a great place. Not only are they good, a lot of them are fast paced and a lot of them will keep you entertained, which is kind of what you need when you start out reading. So I've got a few from different genres depending on what genre you'd like to read or start off with, and let's get into the video. The first genre I'm going to do is probably one of the most popular genres, and that is romance. So I've got two authors here to suggest for you if you're starting out with romance, but there are many more. I think with romance you can more or less start anywhere. I'm just trying to give you my favourites and books I think are quite fast paced. So first of all we have Ashley Poston's book. Now she has the 7 Year Slip and the Dead Romantics. Personally, Dead Romantics was more of a 3-star for me, but it was very fast paced, so if you're looking for a fast paced romance this is still good. But my favourite of her books is the 7 Year Slip, which is still just as fast paced really. Pretty sure I think it's about 330-ish pages, so nothing crazy, and I think her writing is quite easy to read. It flows well, and so you won't find yourself hopefully as much wanting to like stop reading and pick up your phone or whatever. So Ashley Poston's books are actually magical realism romances, so they both are a romance just set in the real world. However, there is one part of them that is just a little bit different. In the Dead Romantics, this guy that she knows dies and he comes back as a ghost, and she can see ghosts, so he comes back as a ghost to her family home, and they're trying to figure out like why he's come back to her, why he can't move on into the afterlife. Obviously it's a rom-com, they fall in love. And then in this one, 7 Year Slip, there is an apartment that our main girl lives in that used to be her aunt's. One day she comes into the apartment and there's a man in it, and she doesn't realise that her apartment has gone back in time by 7 years. This apartment randomly, sometimes when she enters it, it will go back in time 7 years, and then when she goes back outside again she's back in the present. But 7 years ago this man was living in this apartment, and now randomly when she goes in there he's in there as well. Again, obviously a romance, they fall in love. So these two I think are really good to get you into reading. Specifically I would recommend the 7 Year Slip. The other romance author is one that maybe books aren't as short, but they're still relatively normal length books. I think her writing does flow. It's a little bit more in depth and there is more to her stories than just romance. So if you just want purely romance and you don't want to read anything else and you think you'll be bored if you read anything else, then maybe try other books first and then go to this author. If that sounds good to you, a bit of romance and then a bit of an emotional literary fiction subplot, then I would really recommend Emily Henry's books. I've got all of Emily Henry's books here because Funny Story just came out, and I'm actually in the middle of Funny Story. As you can tell, I've actually put the dust jacket back on the wrong way around, clearly. It's actually really annoying because now the sprayed edges are in the wrong position. We're just gonna pretend that that's not like that. So I'm currently reading Funny Story, but I'm only halfway. Basically we have Daphne and we have Miles. Miles and Daphne both currently have partners, and those partners are childhood best friends, and they're called Peter and Petra. So Daphne is going to get married to Peter, and Peter goes on this bachelorette party with Petra, and then Petra admits to him that she's been in love with him this whole time, and he realises that he is also in love with Petra, and so they leave the both of them. And then Miles was moved in with Petra and they were sharing the rent, and now he needs someone else to move in to share the rent with, and so Daphne moves in with Miles, and that is kind of set up for this book. I'm really enjoying it so far. I think it's gonna be another 5-star read. All Emily Henry's books are 5-star reads. She also has Happy Place. This one follows a summer holiday with this big group of friends. They go on a summer holiday every year, and this one could be their last one altogether. They don't want to ruin it, but the two main characters who are in a relationship and are both in this friendship group break up. But they don't want to ruin the holiday, so they fake date the whole time. Oh, also about the like emotional subplot, I think this one is about, I obviously haven't finished it, but I think it's about like making friends in your 30s later in life when you're not in school anymore and how hard that is, and also family struggles. Obviously I haven't finished that yet. This one, the emotional subplot, I would say is again not making friends in your, is it 20s or 30s? Late 20s or early 30s, but keeping them and changing as a person. I think this one is definitely changing as a person and maybe people not changing with you and like how to deal with that. Trying to keep friends when you're not all the same people as you were. Then we have Book Lovers. This one follows Charlie and Nora. So Charlie I always get confused of their jobs. So Nora's a literary agent and Charlie is an editor. So they have like a business meeting at the start of this book. They don't get along because Charlie doesn't like the book that Nora's trying to sell him. And then I think it's like a year or two later, Nora goes to this small town on a holiday with her sister and Charlie ends up being there. This one is definitely grief as well as struggling family relationships as well. Then we have You and Me on Vacation. I think is definitely her most light-hearted one of all her books. Personally, this is still 5-star, but it is my least favourite of hers. But I do think for starting out, this was one of the first books I read when I was like starting back up with reading again. And so I think for starting out, because this one has less of a subplot and it's more focused on the romance, I do think that this one would be a good one to start off with. This one basically follows Poppy and Alex, who are best friends, and they go on a summer trip together every year. But 2 years ago, they have a summer trip that ends in an awkward way and they end up not seeing each other for 2 years until they decide to give it another go and go on one last summer trip together, and Poppy's trying to like save their friendship. So I guess the emotional subplot in this one would be, again, losing friends. I can't remember too much if there's any other subplot in this one, but this one definitely is the most light-hearted of Emily Henry's. And then we have my absolute favourite one of Emily Henry's, which is Beach Read. And Beach Read follows Gus and January, who are both authors, and they are in a writer's block, and so they decided to switch genres. January's going to write like a more depressing true fiction book, and Gus is going to write a rom-com. And they take each other on little excursions to teach each other about the genre, and it's very sweet, but again there is a very emotional subplot in this of grief and family issues. But I would really recommend Emily Henry's books to get you into reading. It definitely got me into reading. Another author I would recommend is Beth O'Leary. I only have one physical copy of her book, but it's all the way up there. I've just thought of it now. Beth O'Leary is another one that I started off my reading journey on, and I think that's really good as well, especially the flagship. Next we have a literary fiction book. For literary fiction, I would recommend Taylor Jenkins Reid to get you into the genre, because she has this celebrity series which consists of Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Daisy Jones and the Six, Carrie Soto's Back, and Malibu Rising. I've read all of them, I've loved all of them, they've all been like 4 stars or above. My personal favourite is either this one or Daisy Jones and the Six, so I'm going to talk to you about this one. I think I would recommend reading this one first if you're getting into reading, because Daisy Jones and the Six is told in interview style, which might not be for everyone, so I would recommend Carrie Soto's Back. So this one basically follows Carrie Soto, who is this retired tennis champion, and she holds the record for, doesn't say on the back, I think it's like most wins or something for a woman, I don't know, but someone takes her record while she's retired, and then Carrie Soto decides she's going to train up, she's going to come out of retirement, and she's going to win back that record one more time before she retires again. Follows her journey training up, and then also her games and what happens in her games. And I know nothing about tennis, I'm not really interested in tennis, but I was really interested in this book. And it also has like different formats, like it had newspaper clippings, like interview clippings. It's really entertaining, really fast paced. I read this really quickly. This would be a really good book to get anyone into the literary fiction genre, because it is literary fiction, but it is also a smidgen of romance, and it's also quite fast paced. I would also recommend thrillers. If you're getting into books, I think thrillers are a good way to get into them, because they're quite fast paced, because you want to find out what's going to happen, and so I would recommend thrillers. My favourite thriller is Rock Paper Scissors by Alice Feeney, which basically follows this couple who are on this Scottish retreat, but they're struggling with marriage problems, and we see every so often a chapter that is a letter that the wife has written to her husband throughout their time together, one for every year of their marriage, and you're kind of trying to piece together how they got from this couple to the one we see in the present timeline, and also there's like creepy things happening to them on this retreat. It's really good, so I'd really recommend that. Also we have Mystery. This is a YA mystery series. Oh, if I can hold it up. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This series follows Pip, who is doing her A-levels, and she's doing a project, basically just a project where you have to do a presentation on any topic that you like, and Pip chooses the case of Andy Bell, and Andy Bell is someone who was murdered in this town. It is believed that she was murdered by her boyfriend, who is Sel Singh, because her boyfriend was found dead, and so they assumed that he killed himself because he murdered his girlfriend. But Pip starts doing this project on this murder, and then she realises that she doesn't actually think that Sao Sing did it, and so she teams up with Sao Sing's brother, and they kind of look into evidence and try and piece together who they think actually did it. Obviously it's quite unrealistic that a teenage girl would figure out a murder, but it's just really fun, and there's 3 books in this series and I love them all. Next we have dystopian / fantasy. So for dystopian, I have the Hunger Games series. Now, I've not actually read this full series yet, I've only read the first one. I've obviously watched all the films, so if you have watched the films, or even if you haven't, read these first if you like. These are just really good, fast-paced, very, very easy to read because they are written in a very YA style, so if you don't feel like you're gonna like that, then maybe it wouldn't be for you. But personally, I really enjoyed just how easy and quick these were to read, and I enjoyed seeing the parts of these books that aren't mentioned in the film. Like, they explain things that aren't explained in the film, and I really enjoy that. I think that that's really interesting. Obviously, do I need to explain what the Hunger Games is about? I don't think so. Everyone knows what the Hunger Games is about. Then in terms of fantasy, I have Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows is the second one in this series. So this series is written by Rebecca Ross. It basically follows Iris and Roman, and in this book a war is going on, but it's kind of similar to like World Wars. Kind of feels like it's like a wartime book, but this war takes place between 2 gods, and that is like the fantasy element of this story. They're basically enlisting people to go to war. So Iris and Roman both work at this newspaper, and because Iris's brother ends up being enlisted to go into war, she starts typing letters to him on this typewriter, and they end up disappearing. So it's like a magical typewriter, and she thinks it's delivering her letters to her brother, but really it's delivering her letters to Roman, and Roman knows it's her. Iris doesn't know it's Roman. They both work together, and it's just really, really sweet. I think it's quite an easy fantasy to follow because I think the second one is more fantasy focused, but the first one is definitely more romance focused. It's not got too much going on in terms of the fantasy, so it's really quite an easy one to get into. I also think that this is one of the sweetest romances. It's YA, it's no spice. If you are looking for that, it'd be a really good one to get into fantasy. Another one to get into fantasy is a mix between fantasy and dystopian, so this one is Shatami. If you like the Hunger Games, you will like this series. So again, it's written in quite a YA style, a little bit less YA than Hunger Games, but still quite a YA style. And this one basically follows Julia. She has a power where if she touches people, they die. And so she's kept in this prison as she's not safe, and then one day she gets taken out of this prison because the government want to use her as a weapon, but she doesn't want to be used as a weapon. So this whole series is basically about her like fighting back against the government who are trying to use her as a weapon. Really good one to start off your fantasy journey with. Those are all the books I have for you guys today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below any other recommendations for new readers, or if you are a new reader, comment down below what books you think you're going to start off with. Subscribe down below, follow my social medias, which are at _libraryofeden on both TikTok and Instagram, and I will see you in my next video very, very soon. Bye!